I am back with this passage to annotate. I like to read through it the first time without marking on anything so that if you want to practice reading aloud with me, that's a good opportunity to do that. That's a very good way to teach yourself about writing because it calls your attention to punctuation and words that you maybe haven't read out loud before. So I encourage you to do that if that's something you would like to do. But let's go back through this passage and annotate. I need to just recall I'm using yellow for definitions. I'm using blue for word parts. That in itself is part of annotating. Keeping that color code consistent through all of the lessons will help you to sort of build that habit into your mind. Okay, starting over here, let me get my pen ready to go. Says an important part of every experiment is recording observations and organizing data in easy-to-read tables and or graphs. A graph, there's a word in bold, so let me put that in a box, is a visual display of information or data. So if the word is in bold print, it is a vocabulary word. This word is very important to me because that signals that a definition is coming. So a graph is, here's the definition, a visual display. Let me try that again. A visual display of information or data. So when we do the flashcards, this will be the definition that we want to use for graph. A line graph. So there's another vocabulary word. Hopefully your brain is already drawing a box around that in your mind and even highlighting it in yellow on that whiteboard in your mind. Now there is no word is this time, but we can use this as a definition nonetheless. A line graph shows trends or how data changes over time. And the particular example that they gave us is of hot dogs sold per day. And I just want to call your attention to something here. We'll get this in the flashcard as well, but while we're here, let me go ahead and tell you just a little bit about the trend line. So the trend here is that there is an increase in sales. From Monday to Tuesday, there was an increase in the number of hot dogs sold. And I know that because that line is rising. And then we get a constant or a leveling out. We would call this a constant trend where there's no change. It's not rising or falling. And then we have another rise over the next 2 days. At no time does this line decrease or fall. So those are important terms to know with line graphs. Rising, falling, and constant. Okay, a bar graph is useful for comparing information collected by counting. So here's the vocabulary term. And I need a little bit more of a pencil. There we go. So bar graph is the term. We have the word is. So that tells me that a definition is following. Useful for comparing information collected by counting. So the main point of a bar graph is to compare. The main point of a line graph is to trend, to show a trend or changes over time. I do want to point out to you that bar graphs can do this. I'm going to just go ahead and plop a copy of that down here because I want you to realize that if the bar graph rotates this way, it works exactly the same way. Nothing's changing on the bar graph. You can have, this is called a vertical bar graph because it's up and down. And then this one is a horizontal bar graph. It's left to right, but the concept is the same regardless of the direction. And then finally we have a circle graph. So there's another vocabulary term. The word is indicates that a definition is following. It's used to show how a fixed quantity is broken down into parts. Now, I want you to know about this fixed quantity. That is always equal to 100%. So if you look at a bar graph, a circle graph, and you add up the percentages. So let's just take this one. I'm going to do some simple addition over here. I have sci-fi 20, comedy 20%, action 25%, romance 30%, drama 5%. If I add those up, that should always total 100%. If not, something's wrong with the graph. So this one does indeed total 100%, and that is that fixed quantity. It will always be your 100%. So always keep that number in mind if you're dealing with a circle graph, a pie graph. They're also called pie graphs. You're always basing it on the 100%. The full circle is the 100%. Okay, we have 3 focus questions for this lesson, and we'll be adding those to our notes. Number 1, what is a graph? Number 2, what type of graph is best for displaying how data has changed over time? And number 3, identify the 3 types of graphs. And I'm going to insert the word main in here because there are many types of graphs, but we are looking in this lesson at the 3 main types. So we will be learning about 6 types altogether, and I believe that may be coming up in the next lesson. So I will see you soon, and we'll dive into graphs.